Monday morning, the unexpected meeting location, Zenith Soft headquarters, New York City, 30th floor conference room. Main character, Emily Carter, 55, chief software architect at Zenith Soft, an enterprise cybersecurity firm. Antagonists, Oliver Grant, CEO, Valerie Hayes, HR director, Mark Dempsey, CTO. The 30th floor conference room had always felt sterile, but today it was ice cold. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked downtown Manhattan, but the breathtaking view did nothing to ease the suffocating tension in the room. Emily Carter sat in the plush leather chair, posture composed, face unreadable. She already knew what was coming. Across from her, Valerie Hayes, the ever-diplomatic HR director, carefully laid out a manila folder on the table, smoothing its edges like a ritual. To her left, Mark Dempsey, the CTO, refused to make eye contact, pretending to review something on his tablet. And then there was Oliver Grant, the CEO, leaning back in his chair with an obnoxiously smug expression, arms crossed, waiting for the moment to drop the hammer. Valerie exhaled slowly, adopting that artificial HR tone that screamed, "This isn't personal." "Emily," she began, feigning sympathy, "as part of our corporate restructuring efforts, we've decided to consolidate the AI research division under the product development team." Emily didn't react. She just blinked once. Slowly. Valerie continued, her voice carefully measured. "Unfortunately, this means your position has been eliminated." Mark shifted uncomfortably. Oliver, however, barely suppressed a satisfied smirk. Valerie slid the severance package forward. "Of course, we deeply value your contributions to Zenith Soft. That's why we're offering you a generous severance package, 2 weeks' pay for every year of service." Emily glanced down at the folder. 2 weeks per year, 15 years of dedication reduced to scraps. She fought the urge to laugh. They expected her to break, to cry, to rage. That's what they were waiting for. Instead, she lifted her eyes and smiled. "I see." Her voice was calm, too calm. Mark finally looked up, confusion flickering across his face. Oliver's smirk faltered. They weren't expecting this reaction. "I appreciate the clarity," Emily continued, reaching for the severance package. "I assume you'll need my keycard and company laptop by Friday?" Oliver's brows furrowed. Valerie hesitated. Yes, that's right," Mark finally said. "And my team?" Emily asked, tilting her head. Valerie cleared her throat. "They'll be notified later today." Emily nodded, standing. "Then I won't take up any more of your time." Oliver, now visibly irritated by her lack of reaction, leaned forward. "Emily, I want you to know this decision wasn't personal. It's just the direction the company is taking." Her gaze locked onto his. "Of course, it's just business." Something in her tone made Oliver shift in his seat, the briefest flicker of uncertainty flashing in his eyes. Emily turned and strode toward the door, her heels clicking sharply against the polished wood floor. But as she stepped into the hallway, she didn't head straight for her office. Instead, she pulled out her personal phone and typed a short message. "It's happening. Friday is my last day." Seconds later, her phone vibrated. Perfect timing. "See you for dinner." Emily tucked her phone back into her blazer pocket, her lips curving into a small, knowing smile. They thought they had blindsided her. They had no idea they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Key twist, what they didn't know. As Emily walked down the hallway, she replayed the critical email she had accidentally received 3 weeks ago. The subject line had been "Re-transition plan," something that should have never landed in her inbox. Inside, it had detailed 1 Zenith Soft's plan to phase her out. 2. The fact that they had never officially filed a patent for her AI cybersecurity algorithm. Their intention to claim full credit for it after she was gone. Emily had read it 3 times, her pulse pounding, then quietly forwarded it to her personal email. That night, she had gone home, poured herself a glass of wine, and drafted a very different kind of transition plan. Now, Now it was in motion. Final scene, the calm before the storm. Back at her office, Emily packed up a few personal items. The coffee mug her team had gifted her last Christmas, a framed picture from the company's holiday party, her industry awards, the ones they never mentioned in company press releases. As she placed her Outstanding Innovator plaque into the box, a voice cut through the silence. Emily. She turned. Mark Dempsey stood awkwardly at her door. She raised an eyebrow. Yes? He hesitated. His expression was tight, conflicted. I didn't know about this decision until last week. His voice was low, almost guilty. Emily gave him a small smile. It's fine, Mark, I understand. He looked relieved. So, do you have any plans? Taking some time off? She slipped her laptop into her bag and smiled. Oh, I already have something lined up. Mark frowned. That was fast. Anything interesting? Emily picked up her box of personal items and walked past him, pausing just long enough to say, very. And with that, she left. By Friday, she would walk out of Zenith Soft for the last time. By Monday, the entire industry would know her name. And by next week, Zenith Soft would be in chaos. Emily stepped into the private dining room of the Lexington, a high-end steakhouse tucked away in the heart of Manhattan. The room was dimly lit, shielded from prying eyes by dark mahogany dividers and low-hanging pendant lights that gave the space an intimate, almost conspiratorial feel. She had been here before, many times, in fact, but tonight wasn't just another business dinner. Tonight was about taking back control. Nathan Reynolds, the CEO of Cipher Shield, was already seated at the far end of the table, nursing a glass of bourbon. He was in his early 50s, sharply dressed, with the air of a man who knew when to strike and when to wait. Right now, he was waiting, watching her with an amused, knowing expression. Emily, he greeted smoothly, setting down his glass. I assume congratulations are in order. Emily smirked, slipping into the chair across from him. A waiter immediately arrived, pouring her a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon without needing to ask. She tilted the glass in acknowledgement before taking a sip. They finally pulled the trigger, she confirmed. Nathan exhaled sharply through his nose, shaking his head. Idiots! Do they even realize what they just handed me? Emily reached into her bag, pulling out a sealed folder and sliding it across the table. They will, she said. Nathan didn't open it immediately. He simply let his fingers rest against the folder, eyes locked onto hers. Tell me everything. Emily leaned back, swirling the wine in her glass. 3 months ago, I stumbled upon an email chain I was never supposed to see. It outlined their plan to push me out while quietly absorbing my work into the company's IP portfolio. Nathan's brow lifted slightly. They didn't even bother filing a patent? Oh, they thought they had, she said, a hint of amusement in her tone. But their legal department, let's just say they had a little oversight. Nathan finally flipped open the folder, his eyes scanning the official patent papers inside. His fingers tightened around the edge. So you filed for it yourself? Emily's lips curled into a small, victorious smile. Last month, fully documented, personal equipment, personal time. Nathan whistled lowly, shaking his head in admiration. Damn, Emily, you really played the long game. She took another sip of wine. I wasn't about to let them steal my life's work. Nathan's amusement shifted into something more serious. He flipped to the last page of the patent documentation, then carefully closed the folder. Do they have any idea yet? Emily shrugged. Maybe. Maybe not, but by Monday morning, they'll know. Nathan exhaled, then smiled, a slow, shark-like grin. I have to say, I was hoping this day would come. He motioned to the waiter, who discreetly placed a second folder in front of Emily. She raised a brow as she opened it. Inside was a formal contract, 7-figure signing bonus, equity in Cipher Shield, ongoing royalties for every product using her AI cybersecurity algorithm, full autonomy over the future development of her own technology. Emily scanned the fine print carefully, but she had already memorized the terms from their previous discussions. Nathan leaned forward, watching her with sharp blue eyes. "Tell me, Emily, what do you think Oliver's face will look like when he realizes what just happened?" She picked up the pen, signing the contract in one smooth stroke. "I'm more concerned about my team," she admitted, setting the pen down. "They don't deserve to be caught in the fallout." Nathan nodded, sliding another thin folder across the table. Already addressed. 6 senior roles, each with a significant raise. Your people are covered. Emily tapped her fingernail against the edge of the folder, contemplating for a moment. Then she picked up her glass, raising it slightly. "To new beginnings." Nathan grinned, lifting his bourbon in response. "And to taking back what's yours." Their glasses clinked, sealing the deal. The next morning, Emily woke up before dawn. She stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows of her apartment, watching as the city began to stir. Her personal laptop was open on the kitchen counter, displaying a draft press release. She skimmed through it one last time. Cipher Shield acquires exclusive rights to AI cybersecurity patent. Emily Carter, former chief architect at Zenith Soft, joins as CTO. New cybersecurity breakthrough to reshape the industry. Emily tapped her finger against the send button, but didn't press it just yet. Instead, she reached for her phone and dialed a number she had memorized over 15 years. It rang twice before a groggy voice answered. "Emily?" "Hey, Logan," she said, her voice calm. "You busy?" There was a pause before Logan Pierce, her former protege at Zenith Soft, let out a nervous chuckle. I don't think I'm allowed to say yes to you anymore." Emily smirked. "Relax. I just wanted to let you know. Check your inbox." A beat of silence. Then Logan muttered, "Hold on." She waited as he opened the email. Then a sharp inhale. Holy sh*. Emily finally hit send on the press release. "See you on the other side, Logan." She hung up before he could say another word. Outside, the first rays of morning sunlight streaked across the skyline. By the time the rest of the world woke up, Zenith Soft's worst nightmare would be public knowledge. Monday morning, the disaster unfolds. At 7 a.m. sharp, the industry-shaking press release dropped. Cipher Shield acquires exclusive rights to AI cybersecurity patent. Former Zenith Soft architect, now CTO at rival company. Game-changing technology no longer owned by Zenith Soft. By 7:15 a.m., major tech news outlets had already started picking up the story. By 7:30 a.m., investors were scrambling to make sense of what had just happened. By 8 a.m., Oliver Grant's phone exploded with calls. And by 9 a.m., Zenith Soft was in full-blown crisis mode. Zenith Soft boardroom. 9:15 a.m. Oliver stormed into the boardroom, his usual calm arrogance replaced by something far more primal, pure panic. Seated around the long mahogany table were the company's top executives, including Mark Dempsey, the CTO, who looked like he had aged 10 years overnight. A giant screen at the head of the room displayed a real-time stock ticker. Zenith Soft stock down 9.4%. Investor confidence plummeting, competitor. Cipher Shield surging. At the far end of the table, Valerie Hayes, head of HR, was flipping through a printed copy of the Cipher Shield announcement with shaky hands. Oliver slammed his fist on the table, making everyone jump. "Would someone like to explain to me," he said, voice barely restrained, "what the hell just happened?" Mark cleared his throat, rubbing his temples. We didn't see this coming," he admitted. "We thought—" "You thought?" Oliver snapped. "You thought she'd just walk away?" He turned to Valerie. "How long have you been in HR, Valerie?" 15 years? Valerie paled. 14. Oliver leaned over the table. "Then tell me, in those 14 years, how many employees have you fired that quietly signed their exit papers, left the building, and then turned around and nuked the entire F. King company?" Valerie stammered, but no words came out. Mark rubbed his face, exhaling heavily. "Oliver, the real problem isn't that she left. The problem is this. He reached across the table, grabbing a stack of legal documents and slamming them onto the glossy surface. Oliver glanced down, his blood running cold as he read the words stamped across the front. U.S. Patent Number 233497, registered to Emily Carter. For a second, the room was silent. Then, a low murmur rippled through the board members. Oliver snatched the documents, flipping through page after page of undeniable proof. His hands tightened around the edges of the paper. She patented it? Mark nodded grimly. Last month. It's airtight. There's nothing we can do. Oliver threw the papers onto the table. That's bullshit. She developed that technology under this company. It belongs to us. Mark exhaled. Actually, it doesn't. Oliver froze. What do you mean it doesn't? Mark pushed his chair back, standing. I mean, Emily was smarter than we thought. He grabbed another folder and tossed it forward. She documented everything. Every hour of development she spent at home. Every update she made outside of company hours. She even kept time-stamped versions on her personal laptop. Oliver's stomach twisted. He had thought he was playing chess. Emily had been playing 5 steps ahead the entire time. 10:30 a.m. Emergency call from legal. By now, Zenith Soft's legal team had been briefed, and their response was even worse than expected. If we try to use her algorithm, we'll be in violation of her patent. Any attempt to fight this would be a PR disaster. We have no choice but to negotiate licensing with CipherShield. Oliver gritted his teeth, gripping the edge of his desk as his assistant read out the damage report. Stock, down 11.2%, major investors requesting emergency meetings, clients expressing concern about the company's future. Then the worst text message of the day came in. Logan Pierce. I just resigned. So did the rest of Emily's team. Thought you should know. Oliver stared at the screen. Then he hurled his phone against the wall, shattering it into pieces. Meanwhile, across the city, Emily sat in the sunlit corner office of CipherShield's headquarters, sipping her coffee as she read through the latest news articles. Industry shocker. Emily Carter's departure. Cripples Zenith Soft. CipherShield gains exclusive rights to revolutionary AI security tech. Zenith Soft plummets as CTO Mark Dempsey faces backlash. She smirked. The first domino had fallen. Her new assistant knocked lightly on the door. Ms. Carter, Emily looked up. Yes, there's, someone on the phone for you. Emily arched a brow. Who? The assistant shifted uncomfortably. Oliver Grant. Emily set her coffee down slowly. A long pause. Then, let him wait. She turned back to the skyline, watching the city unfold beneath her. Oliver was finally panicking, and it was only Monday. Tuesday morning, CipherShield headquarters. Emily stepped into her new office, a sleek corner suite on the top floor of CipherShield's Manhattan headquarters. The floor-to-ceiling windows stretched across the skyline, casting a golden glow over the polished wood floors. The room smelled of fresh leather and espresso, a stark contrast to the cold, sterile atmosphere she had left behind at Zenith Soft. She took a deep breath. For the first time in years, she felt free. Nathan Reynolds, CipherShield's CEO, was already waiting for her, flipping through a thick folder of morning reports. He didn't look up when she walked in, just smirked and tapped the cover of the report. You made the front page. Again. Emily glanced at the folder, her face unreadable. Zenith Soft's stock continues to plummet as former CTO's patent shakeup reshapes cybersecurity market. CipherShield poised to overtake industry giant after high-profile talent acquisition. Zenith Soft's CEO remains silent amidst internal crisis. She took a seat across from Nathan, crossing her legs. And? Nathan grinned. And they're bleeding. Hard. He flipped the folder open, revealing graphs, reports, and analyst projections. Zenith Soft's stock, down 16.3%. 3 major investors pulled out overnight. 2 large clients moving to CipherShield. Emily leaned back, sipping her coffee. "Well," she said casually, "isn't that a shame?" Nathan let out a sharp laugh. "Remind me never to piss you off." Meanwhile, at Zenith Soft, 9 a.m., emergency executive meeting. Oliver hadn't slept. He sat at the head of the Zenith Soft executive boardroom, his fingers clenched together, his jaw locked. He had never felt this helpless in his entire career. The past 24 hours had been a nightmare. Half of his executive team was in full-blown panic mode. The company's legal team was useless, completely outmaneuvered by Emily's airtight documentation. The investors were demanding answers. And now, the biggest blow of all, 2 of their largest clients had formally requested a transition to CipherShield. Oliver's vision blurred with rage. "Can someone tell me why the hell this is happening?" Mark Dempsey, his CTO, rubbed his face in frustration. "Because we screwed up, Oliver. We didn't secure the patent. We let her walk out the door thinking she was replaceable, and now she's running the company that's about to bury us." Oliver's hands curled into fists. "Then fix it," Mark scoffed, shaking his head. "It's too late for that. The only thing we can do now is negotiate a licensing deal with CipherShield." Oliver's stomach tightened. "So, you're telling me that I need to crawl back to Emily Carter and beg for access to our own goddamn technology?" Silence. Nobody dared to answer. But everyone in that room knew the answer. 10:45 a.m., Oliver makes the call. Back at CipherShield, Emily was reviewing the integration strategy for her algorithm when her assistant knocked hesitantly. "Miss Carter?" Emily glanced up. "Yes?" The assistant hesitated. "There's, someone on the phone for you." Emily's brow arched. "Who?" The assistant swallowed. "Oliver Grant." For the first time all morning, Emily smiled. She let the silence stretch out for a long moment before finally answering. "Tell him. I'm in meetings all day." The assistant blinked, clearly thrown. You don't want to take the call?" Emily leaned back in her chair, fingers tapping lightly against the polished wood surface. Number let him sweat. Tuesday afternoon, the breaking point. By 3 p.m., Oliver was losing it. Every attempt to contain the situation had failed. Stock dropped another 4%. Internal resignations increased, more employees jumping ship to CipherShield. The board was now questioning his leadership. And then, the real dagger, a breaking news alert from Tech Review Weekly. Inside the downfall, how Zenith Soft's CEO ignored his most valuable engineer. CipherShield's new AI system already outperforming industry standards. And the worst part? The article included a detailed exposé on how Oliver had tried to erase Emily's contributions from company records. Oliver slammed his laptop shut, his pulse pounding. "We need to fix this," he growled. Mark exhaled. "Oliver, there's only one way to fix this. We call CipherShield. We offer them a licensing deal, and we give Emily what she wants." Oliver's hands clenched into white-knuckled fists. Tuesday night, CipherShield's next move. Emily sat in Nathan's office sipping a whiskey neat as she listened to her former colleagues' resignation letters flood in. Logan Pierce had officially left Zenith Soft along with half of the AI development team she had mentored. Nathan scrolled through his phone. "Guess who just emailed me?" Emily smirked. "Let me guess. Oliver?" Nathan nodded. He's finally asking for a meeting, wants to discuss a reasonable licensing deal. Emily set her glass down, tilting her head slightly. "Reasonable," she repeated. Nathan chuckled. "Yeah, like he has any leverage left." Emily leaned forward. "Let's make something clear, Nathan. We're not just winning. We're rewriting the rules." Nathan raised his brow. "What do you have in mind?" Emily's smile was razor sharp. "When we license the algorithm, we don't just charge them triple the standard industry rate." Nathan's brow lifted. "Oh?" She folded her hands together. "We make them acknowledge me, publicly. I want my name officially credited in every system update. I want it in every legal document, and I want it in the press." Nathan whistled lowly. That's cold. Emily lifted her whiskey. They wanted to erase me. She took a slow sip, then set the glass down. Now they'll have to say my name. Friday morning, the desperation move. Oliver Grant stood in front of the Zenith Soft boardroom, shoulders stiff, jaw clenched. He had spent the past 3 days watching everything he built fall apart. Stock down, 23%. Since Monday, major clients jumping ship to Cipher Shield, investors losing confidence, demands for new leadership. And now, the final nail in the coffin, the board had called an emergency vote. The message was clear: fix this, or get out. At exactly 9:30 a.m., the doors swung open, and Richard Lawson, a high-profile crisis executive, stepped inside. Richard had been brought in overnight, and everyone knew what that meant. Oliver's days were numbered. Friday afternoon, the last call. Emily was in a conference room at Cipher Shield going over the latest licensing negotiations when her assistant knocked lightly. "Ms. Carter?" She didn't look up. "Let me guess. Oliver's on the line?" The assistant hesitated. "Actually, it's someone new." Richard Lawson Emily paused. "Interesting." She exchanged a look with Nathan Reynolds, who leaned back in his chair, watching with a knowing smirk. "Put him through." The phone clicked, and a deep, steady voice filled the room. "Ms. Carter, my name is Richard Lawson. I'm the interim CEO of Zenith Soft." Emily raised a brow. "Interim?" There was a brief silence. Then, "Yes," he admitted. "As of this morning, Oliver Grant has stepped down." Emily allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Checkmate. Richard cleared his throat. "I'd like to discuss a fair licensing arrangement for your patented technology." Emily leaned back in her chair. "I'm listening." Nathan hid his grin, enjoying every second of this. "We're prepared to negotiate a substantial deal," Richard continued, "one that ensures both companies move forward without further escalation." Emily tapped her nails against the mahogany table, considering. Then she spoke. "There will be 3 conditions," she said smoothly. Richard was silent for a moment. "I'm listening." Emily held up a finger. 1, triple the standard industry licensing rate. A pause. Then, "That's steep." She ignored him, lifting a second finger. 2, Zenith Soft will publicly acknowledge my contributions to the Sentinel Shield AI technology. My name will appear in all press materials, legal documents, and future patents. Nathan raised his brows but said nothing. "And 3, she continued, lifting a final finger, "I want an official apology." Richard let out a slow breath. "That's public," Emily finished, "not some quiet legal statement. I want a press release from your board admitting your company erased my name." The silence was deafening. "Ms. Carter," Richard finally said, voice strained, "I understand your frustration, but this level of demand—" Emily's voice was cold, sharp. "You came to me, Mr. Lawson." She let that sink in. Then, "I own the technology you need to keep your company afloat. The only alternative is for Zenith Soft to start from scratch, which would take what? 4, 5 years?" Nathan chuckled under his breath, but Emily ignored him. "So, Mr. Lawson," she said smoothly, "do we have a deal?" Richard inhaled deeply. Then, with quiet resignation, "Yes." Emily's lips curved. "Good. I expect the first press release by Monday." And with that, she ended the call. Nathan let out a low whistle. "Damn, you really made them grovel." Emily simply smiled. Monday morning, the public reckoning. The moment the press release hit the news cycle, the industry exploded. Zenith Soft issues, public apology to former CTO Emily Carter Company, acknowledges oversight in AI patent filing. Cipher Shield emerges as industry leader. Emily watched as social media erupted, professionals across the industry calling out the blatant injustice she had suffered. Nathan nudged her, chuckling. "Check this out." He flipped his laptop toward her, showing a LinkedIn post from one of Zenith Soft's former senior engineers. To every woman in tech who has ever been erased, this one's for you. Congrats, Emily Carter. You won. Emily's chest tightened slightly. This wasn't just about revenge. This was recognition. She had finally gotten back what was hers. 1 year later, the ultimate victory, a packed auditorium in San Francisco. Hundreds of tech leaders, investors, and engineers sat in anticipation as the keynote speaker stepped onto the stage. Emily stood at the podium, adjusting the microphone. She looked out at the crowd, took a slow breath, and began. Thank you. A pause. 1 year ago, I stood on the sidelines of this industry, watching others take credit for my work. I was told to be grateful for my seat at the table. She glanced up, scanning the audience. But here's the thing. Her voice hardened. I wasn't just sitting at the table. I was building it. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd. I tell you this, not for sympathy, but for truth. Because in this industry, we talk a lot about innovation, but we don't talk enough about who actually gets credit for it. She let the words settle. Then, that changes today. Thunderous applause. As she walked off stage, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced at the screen. Zenith Soft just announced bankruptcy. Thought you'd enjoy the update. A slow, satisfied smirk spread across her lips. Emily locked her phone, stepped outside into the crisp California air, and took a deep breath. Zenith Soft was gone. And her name? It would never be forgotten again.